So you're not for breaking up Facebook or Google. You're not for that?
Oh, I'm for doing lots of things where big tech are concerned. What I'm for, though, is that we have to figure out precisely what the problems we're trying to solve for are, and then figure out what the right approaches are. And then the break them up approach may or may not solve the problem that we're looking to solve. Like, and it's what I said before. It's like if you break up Amazon into 4 mini Amazons, that actually does not help that Main Street set of businesses, like, reconstitute. Like, we need to get money into people's hands in a way that's going to impact their lives. It's not about how people feel. It's about, because it might make that like Main Street merchant feel good, but like, it's not gonna like if I say I just broke up Amazon, like it doesn't really help that person. And technology is a very different thing because none of us wants to use the fourth best navigation app. Like, this isn't an area where it's like, ooh, does competition always it makes sense? Like there are some instances where it's like, you know what, like we need one thing just to aggregate all the data and become the most efficient. But then the question is, what happens when that monopoly ends up messing with our democracy or hurting us in various ways? So we have to have a different set of solutions for a different set of problems. It could include like having companies divest parts of themselves, 100% on the table. It probably should include, or almost certainly should include, the suggestion where if you have a platform, you can't have your own house brand that you're privileging and then just like selling it at an advantage relative to everyone else. So there are big moves. I am for curbing the abuses in big tech. But what I'm not for is taking a 20th century toolbox to a 21st century set of problems.
See, the point of antitrust legislation isn't to make things better for the consumer, even though that is one of the side benefits of it. The point of antitrust legislation and enforcing it is because you have too much of a concentration of power. And that's the important part. Right now, Amazon, over 50% of all internet sales happen through Amazon, right? So that's one guy having way too much power over our economy. And then Facebook and Google, 70 or 80% of all Americans get their news from Facebook and Google. So that's really concentrated power controlling the information. And so there's a lot of unintended consequences to that. So that's so don't miss the point of the real point of antitrust legislation. It's that it's the concentration of power. And so you should be for that, even if it doesn't help the consumer. We should be wanting to break up Amazon, Facebook, and Google because it's way too much power. Right now, Jeff Bezos owns the paper, the Washington Post, the paper of note, and they never write an article about how horrible Amazon is, why it should be broken up, the fact that he's in bed with the CIA to a tune of $600 million, and the fact that he sits on the Pentagon board, and he's the richest guy in the history of the world, and he owns the Washington Post. That is way too much power for one guy to have. That is crazy that we allow that, and I would urge you to not use the litmus test of is it better for the consumer, but do we need to break up this concentration of power, which we definitely do. Would you agree with that?
I 100% agree with the fact that that we did not foresee the consequences of this much influence and power being concentrated in the hands of a handful of organizations, a handful of companies, and a handful of individuals.
This is predicted, though, Andrew. This is not. You know that this is predicted. Marx predicted this. This isn't news.
I mean, Marx did, in many ways. Like he was very on top of it.
So this is predicted. You knew this was going to happen. Don't act. This isn't a surprise.
Well, I think most of us, as someone who's worked in technology, the rise of some of these companies has been, in a historical perspective, very, very rapid. It's like you looked up and you were like, wow, that there was a point when we just thought of Google as like a pleasant website. We used to search for things, and now it controls, like you said, 80% of information and advertising. So this is the situation we have right now. And then we need to go big in terms of figuring out, okay, what is happening with our democracy? Is there too much influence being held in the hands of certain companies? And
do you think that's still a question?
It is not. It is not.
Okay.
There's too much power in the hands of a handful of companies.
Yeah. What are you going to do to fix that?
Exactly. And that is the question that we have to ask. We have to figure out what the world looks like after we do the things. And then if you break up...
Wait a minute. You don't have... So you say we can't have a solution until we know what's going to happen after we implement the solution. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that we have to look at the problems and lay them all out and then say, okay.
So you don't have a plan. If you don't have a plan, that's okay.
I have the beginnings of a plan, but but it's like there are a lot of different things you have to do, and each company is its own case because each company like operates in a different way in a different industry.
So just to put an underline on this, you're not for breaking up Facebook and Google and Amazon.
I am open to any and all remedies, including having these companies get broken up from what they are right now.
Okay. All right. That was fantastic. Now, let me ask you one last question. If you could put anybody in jail right now, who would that person be?
It would be the leaders of Purdue Pharma who initiated this opiate plague that has killed tens of thousands of Americans and ruined hundreds of thousands of lives. And they walked away with $30 billion. They got hit with a $635 million fine, which is about 2% of their blood money profits. The fact that they have buildings at Harvard and Yale named after them and are just walking around free while hundreds of thousands of Americans suffer from this opiate addiction plague that they started is, to me, reprehensible. And if there's someone I would throw in jail, it'd be them.
That's a better answer than I even expected. That was a great answer, Andrew. That was a slam dunk of an answer. God bless you for doing that. Next live Jimmy Dore show is June 5th. That's a Wednesday at Hermosa Beach Comedy Club in Hermosa Beach, California. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for all tickets. We might be coming to your town. And if you love the show, please become a patron. Please support the show. We give you hours of bonus material every week. And please click that bell and make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you are already subscribed, they unsubscribe people every day. Just check. Thanks for your support.